Chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose, Yuletide carols being sung by a choir, and folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows a turkey and some mistletoe help to make the season bright. Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow will find it hard to sleep tonight. They know that Santa's on his way. He's loaded lots of toys and goodies on his sleigh, and every mother's child is gonna spy to see if reindeer really know how to fly. And so I'm offering this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas to you. And so I'm offering this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas to you.
Welcome to the Missouri Freedom Initiative. Hey, gang, Saturday night. You know what that means? That means we're live. Yeah, and you're here for it, too. And we have a mixture of all kinds of things that we're going to talk about tonight. But the first thing I've got to say is Merry Christmas, everyone. Seriously, Merry Christmas. Enjoy the time with your families. And, that is particularly, powerful for me right now. Basically a lot of my family's not with me anymore. And so I keep the ones I have, as close as humanly possible. But I do want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, and we'll do it again at the end of the show. We'll get into everyone joining us tonight in just a second. But I want to talk about the national debt real quick. $38 trillion. For those of you who are just listening and are not watching your screen, $38 trillion, $504 billion. So that's what the U.S. national debt is at. Although the debt is ticking up a little bit slower than normal, it's supposedly being offset right now by tariff revenues. So, in fact, Trump is talking about sending out checks real soon, quote unquote, rebate checks. I say, Trump, do what you said you would do. Get rid of income taxes. Don't worry about sending checks out. Just do away with federal income taxes. Do away with capital gains taxes. Do it all through tariffs if you like. That's originally what the Founding Fathers did, folks. And Trump made a promise. Well, I don't know if it was a real promise. It was a campaign promise. But he doesn't keep as many of those as many people would like to remember. But so that is the national debt. Now let's go on to the good news. Let's go on to silver and gold. And I do want to talk a little bit more about silver and gold tonight from the old Truth, Money, and Freedom days, because I've been into silver and gold literally for 40 years, much, much longer than most of the pundits you'll actually find on YouTube. But of course, I'm not in it for a living, and I never have been. But Gold right now, as of today, this is the 20th of December, 2025. Gold is at $4,338. So it's not exactly at its all-time high that it hit just a few months ago, and that was $4,365. So we're roughly about $28 short of the all-time high for gold. But let's take a look at silver. That's the interesting one, the really interesting one. It's at $67.01. This is an all-time high. And not only is it an all-time high, but it actually closed the week at an all-time high yet again. This is the same story we've been seeing virtually all year. Silver is literally doing its moonshot. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. I don't really like to talk so much about how much silver is going to be worth, how much gold is going to be worth, because I think of them as money. And what they are is a deflationary money. And that's a very different experience for us here in the United States. We're used to the value of our currency going down, completely going down, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. The dollar buys you less. Well, it's the exact opposite with silver and gold. And that's because the dollar is worth less. That's the reason silver and gold keep going up. They're actually offsetting the losses you're experiencing in your pension, in your wallet, in your bank account, in your kids' college tuition fund. It's offsetting that. And that's a wonderful thing. That's exactly what it's supposed to be doing. So thank you to gold and silver. That's some of the good news. And actually, the weather's really going to warm up for next week for Christmas down here in Missouri. And maybe we'll even talk about that too. But let's say hello to everyone who's joining us tonight. We have Sam Britton with Missouri Liberty Radio on the phone with us tonight. We also have Cindy Stratton with us. We have Doug and Maya Frame with us. And we have Caleb with us as well. So I want to say hello to all of you and thank you very much for joining. And we're going to try and go as quickly as we can tonight and keep it down to roughly about an hour if we can. And I know that I'm, the biggest purveyor of the show going on and on and on, and I get that. But I'll go as quick as I can. We'll cover all the bases. And so we have several things I'd like for us to actually discuss tonight. But the first things first, let's go into a bill that I would like everyone to know. I'm sorry, it's not a bill yet. It's on paper, but it hasn't been filed. And this one is actually got a name. Give me a second here, and I'll give you the name. This is the Home Preservation Act. And this is something that we worked on, and basically there's a senator that may be interested in filing this for us. And as opposed to me actually reading the entire bill to you, because remember I told you there was a bill that we couldn't see yet last week? This is it right here. What this bill essentially does, and I will keep sections of it on the screen so you can pause this and read it in its entirety. It's only 5 pages long. It's not that big. What it does currently in the state of Missouri, it is 3 years. If you do not pay your property taxes within 3 years, the county will take your house. They will actually come and literally enforce the property tax, whatever, statute or whatever it is, by literally removing you from the property so the county can take possession of your property and then sell it in order to recover their tax money. What this bill essentially does, and it does other things too, but it turns that 3 into 7 years. So they cannot come and take your home for 7 years. So basically give more than doubling the amount of time you would have if you have not paid your property taxes. So the other things with this are literally that, number one, the county cannot sell the debt to a collection agency or to some other creditor. They have to hold on to that debt, and that is a lien against your house. So that's how they do it. And then also, too, you can make payments against that debt. So, and it always, any payment that, and by the way, you can make even whatever payments you want, because currently, right now, the law says you have to pay it off in full in order to get rid of the lien on your house so you can keep your house. In this lets you actually make payments on that lien. So if you can only afford $250 payment for a $3,000 tax year or whatever, that you could actually do it that way if it's in the form of a lien. So, that's one of the things here that we're missing here in the state of Missouri is a little bit of compassion for these people that basically are being absolutely subdued by inflation. And so I think a bill like this is something that we could probably get a lot of easy bipartisan support for. For those who literally are on fixed incomes or are disabled or what have you, that cannot increase their income during these trying times. Basically, this gives them a little bit of breathing room. This also has an emergency clause in it, which means as soon as it's signed by the governor, it becomes law. It doesn't have to wait until like August 28th or whatever. So if this is something that moves through rather quickly and the governor signs it, it's immediately law. So let's see if there's anything really big that I've missed from this.
I got a paper copy of it sitting here.
Okay, gotcha.
The main thing with this is that we have to have something to protect people while we develop the plan for
correct
total elimination.
Yep. Okay. So this is actually in my opinion, this one here, just like Caleb said, is a nice kind of buffer zone as we basically start shoring up our resources, our time to start working on a bill that we can file in 2027 that would totally eliminate property taxes in the state of Missouri. So basically, this is just kind of for breathing room right now. It's got the emergency clause in it, and it doesn't. And getting a bill like that across to totally eliminate property taxes altogether may not go through in 1, 2, or 3 years. It may be a 4-year project. You just don't know. So this one just kind of makes sense to do for right now. And I love the fact that you can make payments against a debt that's held in the form of a lien against your property because you're late on your tax bill because of inflation. And this is the way it should be anyway. I mean, 3 years is just not enough, especially with inflation as bad as it's been. And everybody knows the federal government loves to lie about the inflation numbers. So at any rate, this does not have a bill number because it has not been filed, but I kind of want to get at the take of people on the initiative, what their thoughts are on a bill like this to actually get through. I think this one should be relatively easy to get through. I think Democrats and Republicans up in Jeff City, would probably say yes to something like this. I don't see a reason why they would say no. And once again, the county will have to do it, because once again, the state actually gets, and by the way, this is not a joint resolution because nothing is getting changed in the Missouri Constitution. Nothing. All it's doing is expanding out to 7 years, and the Constitution doesn't say it's 3. So that's a statute. That's not a constitutional, object that we're dealing with here. Okay, so at any rate, anyone have any thoughts on that they want to talk about before we move on? Once again, it is not filed as of yet.
I'm waiting over on here on YouTube.
I would definitely be for backing that. I think that's reasonable.
I agree. We got to have a buffer.
Yep, I think so too. We have to have that buffer. And this is for, once again, in the best tradition of the Missouri Freedom Initiative, this benefits everyone. This would apply to everyone in the state. So if anyone, it doesn't matter what color your skin is, what God you worship, doesn't matter the color of your house, where you live in the state of Missouri, this would apply to everyone. And that's exactly the way it should be.
Yeah, two comments on here, Gary Ride and Maria. Yeah, everyone's such yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So we're looking good on that one then.
Because this is our intent, and it's going to be a big project. The amount of man hours that has to go into researching all of the numbers in order to do total elimination and to figure out in the tax law and how to do it is going to be a major project. It's no small feat. You need every bit of data from every department and every county in the state of Missouri.
Yep.
And it's not centralized because our state constitution puts all of real property taxes, the assessment and the collection in the hands of the county. It doesn't necessarily report to the state. So it's going to take a lot to do it. We got to have a buffer.
Yep. So, and once again, emergency clause. So if this goes through the General Assembly, this would actually be signed by the governor relatively quickly, and it becomes law instantly. So the counties have to conform to that right away. So, and hopefully that will help some folks out, and once again, just give everyone a little bit of breathing room, particularly our retired citizens in the state of Missouri who we love, and we don't want to get screwed over. We don't want their property taken from them. People on disabilities, people just having a really tough time, people working 3 jobs and still can't make ends meet. Anyone who owns property that is having some financial trouble. So, okay. All right. Gotcha. Well, I'll tell you what, then we will go ahead and turn that one over and make sure that one gets filed here before the beginning of session then.
Oh, we're turning it over. Okay, here we go.
Yep. So, well,
what I did there. I literally flipped the page over.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. And thank you for that, everyone. Okay. So next thing is I was just going to talk a little bit about I'm going to talk a little bit about silver and gold, going back to when it was getting really, really, really popular back in 2010, 2011, and going forward, because a lot of people who are now getting into silver and gold right now don't know a lot about the history of the price action and everything. But I thought first I would talk a little bit about the news cycle, because although most of you have been keeping up with the news, I have not. I truly have not. Those of you who know me personally know that I have had very little exposure to the news since right about in the middle of January of this year. And that continued on, even after Retha passed away. I was just too busy. There was just other stuff going on. And in the last 2 weeks or so, those of you who follow us on Twitter notice that I've been posting a little bit more, and I'm getting most of my news from there, but at the same time also getting from a few other sites like Zero Hedge and, God help me, Drudge Report. Now, Drudge Report has changed a lot, because it used to be actually a very objective news site. It is totally, totally liberal now. It is so incredibly anti-Republican, anti-Trump, anti-conservative. It's really, it's kind of like CNN now. So it's kind of that kind of rag. Here's what I would like to tell you about actually dipping my toes back into the news cycle is, guys, we've lost. The United States is done. Those of you who cannot see that right now, I'm sorry. The United States is, as we know it, is done. So the message from the Missouri Freedom Initiative has been the same since it was Truth, Money, and Freedom. All your energy needs to go into the states. That's it. That's all you have left. There is absolutely nothing can be done to fix what's going on in D.C. And one of the things I think that really, really, really accents this is someone by the name of Dan Bongino. I know a lot of people know about him. I don't know him that well, but apparently he's a popular guy. He was a podcaster of some description, and then went to go work in the Trump administration, apparently in the Justice Department or FBI or Secret Service or something.
Yeah, assistant, deputy director of the FBI.
Okay, assistant deputy director of the FBI.
No, just deputy director.
Okay.
Director is deputy right below Patel.
Okay, right below Kash Patel. And he has left. And apparently the news has gone out that he has left because he even says nothing can be done to save this country. There's nothing can be done. And we could go into the reasons why. I don't necessarily think it's a good idea for us to do that, particularly tonight. Why is it that America can't be fixed? Why is the swamp so deep that nothing can be done to actually change the trajectory this country is on right now? And that's because America has been fully and completely infiltrated politically. And it's the same concept that most of you know who have read a book called, John Perkins was the author, the Confessions of an Economic Hitman. The way the CIA goes into other countries when they're having political problems or economic problems to go in and take over, and it may take a decade for them to do so, but they totally infiltrate to the point where the CIA is actually running that country. That's exactly what happened here in the United States. We've been infiltrated. And our federal government, in my opinion, and by the way, we could talk about this ad nauseum, and I know this is something that a lot of people probably don't want to hear, but for a guy that hasn't been watching the news for a year and suddenly comes back into it and sees that, number one, you can't do anything about Epstein. You can't do anything about, the sheer amount of corruption. Look at the state of Minnesota, the state of California, all the corruption with COVID and with Medicaid. Oh my gosh. I mean, this is just tip of the iceberg. The fact that Pam Bondi absolutely won't prosecute anybody, and she's been in for a year now. I mean, guys, I'm sorry to tell you this. I mean, the best days are behind America right now. And that's very depressing if you think about it that way. But the fact of the matter is, if you get enough states to clean up their own corruption, they can reform the federal government. This is exactly the process we need to go through. There really is. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I didn't say anything.
Okay. That's really the process we have to go through. And the founding fathers set us up to do it that way. Remember now, the federal government was formed by the states. So, I mean, the states can actually dismantle the federal government and rebuild it. They can do it. I mean, there's actually coverage inside the Constitution for this. So, with one minor exception, but we'll get into that another time. But that's what I found out by watching the news. The corruption is just everywhere, and we can't seem to do anything about it, and you can't get people to talk about it. So basically, you're not going to hear about all the corruption going on in Washington, D.C., unless you're hearing it for someone like Thomas Massey. I would like to hear Eric Burleson, my representative, talk about the sheer amount of corruption and the fact that they can't get anything done up in up in D.C. to stop it. I would like to hear from Eric Burleson on this. I think he truly understands that. He's a smart man, but this is what we've come to. That's essentially what I wanted to tell you guys. And how it affects me is literally, it kind of emboldened me. It makes what the Missouri Freedom Initiative does that much more important than it was before. We're not messing around in D.C. We have nothing to do with that. Thank God. Because it's a waste of time. You can't get anything done. People who have been incredibly effective are the people literally going out and speaking with the people. Charlie Kirk was a great example of that. Charlie Kirk was making a difference, a big difference. And that's probably why he was killed.
The powers that be did not like him making a difference.
Yeah.
The powers that be did not like him questioning the group that currently runs our country.
Yeah. And I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. Plus also, too, he was converting kids that were being converted by Marxist professors in colleges back into, Christianity or Christian values. And so that's exactly the opposite of what, the Marxist professors and those running, all the Ivy League colleges across the United States, it's exactly the opposite of what they wanted. They wanted kids godless. And so he was extremely effective in altering that. So the Gen Zers and some millennials that were basically going to college and had the opportunity to meet Charlie Kirk and hear him speak, basically saw that he was virtually unbeatable in any debate. No one, and in fact, I have never seen a college professor debate him. It's always been they always send their students out like lemmings. Go debate Charlie Kirk. Go give him what for. And of course, these Marxist college professors wouldn't come out and ask questions or debate Charlie Kirk. And we've seen this in many, many formats before. But guys, I've just got to tell you, I mean, honest to God, this whole right versus left thing, this whole rich versus poor, black versus white, trans versus straight. I mean, we could, rich versus poor. These whole things with divides, we've got to drop these, because these divides were set upon us by the very same politicians that are so corrupted. They absolutely are lawless in D.C. now. Totally lawless.
It's not left versus right or any division. It's us versus them.
Yes, it is. And it's the corrupt versus, it's those who have no laws versus those who have to follow the laws. That's who it is. That's what the actual, the division is now. Those who have to follow the law versus those who do not have to follow the laws. So it's us against the Jamie Dimons. It's us against, us against the Nancy Pelosi's, us against the Clintons. Guys, the Epstein stuff is never going to be released. Never. Because that is the Mossad's intelligence network. That is why it will never be released. And so there was an awful lot of CIA and Mossad going on with the Epstein operation.
They ran the whole thing, and they ran it with the royal family.
Sure. So those of you thinking, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop. Go,
yeah. What do you think? What do you think happened to all the children in the orphanages that came out of Ukraine? Where'd they go? Oh, they went to the UK. Where'd they go from there? They disappeared.
Yeah. So for those of you who are waiting for the Epstein files to come out and they think that they're just waiting for the right time and the right place and all that fun stuff, the answer is no, because this was an intelligence gathering operation by intelligence agencies of Israel and the United States. That's what they blackmail people. This is the control. This is the reason why we cannot get rid of corruption in D.C. is because everyone's blackmailed. And those who are not being blackmailed are too afraid to speak against it for whatever reason. They're afraid of being killed maybe. Charlie Kirk was starting to speak against these things, and then he was killed. And of course, you guys know, if you watch the 24/7 news cycle, that there's a lot of stuff behind the death of Charlie Kirk right now. There's a lot of ideas behind what may have happened. And so, but that's kind of what I see going on, basically with the news cycle. And I don't want to, keep on harping on this. I am not, once again, I am not as well versed as you guys are in this, but like I said, from my point of view, from a guy who literally stopped watching the news for a year and then started coming back into the news, this is what I see. And this is exactly what you'd expect in a country that's converting to communism. Slowly but surely. All, the tenets, and the planks of communism keep showing up all over the place. This is why I keep warning people. And I knew, Marshall, go ahead, Caleb.
I was going to say, you see, and then we got someone in the comment here section here, Maria 28 says, I think the first step is for Congress to repeal the Patriot Act and get rid of the secret court.
Yeah.
The fact is they will never, ever do that. They will never relinquish their power.
Yep.
They will never hand over the power that they have, that the intelligence agencies have, that the foreign intelligence agencies have, particularly Mossad, have pushed on us. It will never go away. Your options are to blockade it at the state level.
Yep.
The only thing that I see that will fix this is balkanization.
I'm not even sure that's a fix so much as it is a patch. But at the same time, I respect that. That may be one of the things that we have to do or consider.
The fact is the states need to reassert what it is to be one of the states, one of the United States. Free and independent states that formed a federalist system to handle foreign affairs and the efficiency in domestic trade and provide common defense. That's all the federal government was set up to do. And look where it is now. It formed a federalist system to handle foreign affairs.
Most empires, when they collapse, balkanize.
Trade and provide common defense. That's all the federal government was set up to do.
Yep. Well,
and look where it is now. It formed a federalist system to handle foreign affairs.
Most empires, when they
the
collapse,
efficiency in domestic
balkanize.
trade, and provide common defense. That's
Okay. Guys, I mean,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. It is what it is. And I really, like I said, I don't want to belabor this too much, but this is coming from a perspective that many of you don't have, and that's a year without much news of anything at all. And then just going back into it and then seeing the fact that absolutely nothing is being done about the in-your-face corruption. Nothing is getting done. And so this is, and Doug said, you know, basically balkanization is standard when an empire falls. Just look at Yugoslavia. That's become like 6 countries now. You know, so that's exactly what happened there. I mean, you can actually, throughout history, Doug, you're absolutely correct on that. So although balkanization is not, and by the way, that's a separation, you know, that certain parts of the country kind of form their own countries. That's essentially what balkanization is. So, and Triple T Tony says, what's vulcanization? Vulcan, like Spock in Star Trek. Balkan, B-A-L-K. Balkanization.
Like the Balkan states.
Yep. And M. Gabriel, and hello to M. Gabriel, says both parties are corrupt. You're absolutely correct. I think that is absolutely true because the Republicans won't do anything. This is the problem. And I really, really, really think that they have run out of ways to try and convince us that they are trying to do something. So these midterms that are coming up next year are going to be very interesting. But let's keep that in mind going forward, because when it comes to election time, we do a little bit of research. I mean, we're going to help people decide, you know, basically who is the best picks and, you know, basically for the state of Missouri. I really don't care about D.C. because you can't change anything there anyway. You send 1 or 2 good people there, they get, you know, look at poor Thomas Massey. And I know a lot of people have problems with Thomas Massey. I really don't. I think he's actually a good guy.
People that have a problem with Massey are people that just sit and watch the news or, you know, take what's spoon fed to them.
Yep.
I'm gonna, you know, here's the thing. When it comes to everything you see today is effectively the direct result of a psychological operation, if you want to get to it.
Sure.
The fact is that the human mind, the sociology of the human mind, you know, and whether it be collective or individual psychology, is to try to simplify everything so they can go on with their daily life. The fact is that that's preyed on. That's preyed on with emotional turmoil. That's preyed on with, you know, buzzwords and everything else you could think of. And it gets people just believing whatever's fed to them, whether it be an emotional response or anything of the sort. And then you have 2 sides. You get 2 sides of this. You got people that figure out what's going on, and you got people that are locked into it. And other people that are locked into it, you have this ideology that, oh, everything's going to be okay because this party's doing this or this party's doing this. And then you got people that are figuring it out. And then that has almost a left versus right ideology, that's ideological split. You know, you have an ideology that you might figure out what's going on. What's the word I'm looking for here? A lot of leftists figure out what's going on. But the problem is they still suck up that little bit and think that the solution is, oh, well, this must be whatever labels applied to it, whether it be capitalism or fascism or this or the that or the other, that they suck in off of whatever narrative is fed to them. And they say, oh, well, the solution's communism. And then you get people on, you know, on the quote right, that, you know, they see a problem and they think, oh, well, the entire problem is communism, even though we kind of sit in a weird feudalist monstrosity right now. The fact is that until people actually take the time to figure out, you know, both what's going on and understand every single angle where the problem is, you're going to have just this absolute chaos. And the fact is, and you know, I say this a lot, But the fact is that probably 50% of the population is probably clinically retarded at this rate. The schools have messed them up. The propaganda machines messed them up. I mean, I could go down a whole list of problems there. And then you have a portion of the people that aren't. And then they just buy into things and they're brainwashed. And then you have this little slim portion of society that actually figures out what's going on, realizes what the problem is. And the fact is, our country's taken over. There's no way around it. And then you get people that go, oh, well, there needs to be, this kind of, some civil war or this or that and the other. And I look at that situation and I go, you know what that would do is just hand them every last bit of in-your-face propaganda they could ever go after.
Mm.
It's the fact is Israel is a major problem. They are the primary aggressor of a foreign country. They pretend to be our biggest ally, but they are the number one purveyor of political assassinations. They're the number one purveyor of chaos and importation of migrants in this country. They are the number one purveyor of every globalist ideology. They pay both sides constantly. They play the field and they create chaos because their motto is the same thing as that good old Hungarian dialectic: problem, reaction, solution, and then divide everybody up, get them fighting so they can come in and take over.
There you go.
And there's more to it. There's also more. I mean, there's the World Economic Forum and all that too, but all of it ties back to the same ideology.
Sure it does. And it's literally about taking down, the dollar, taking down the American empire. And there's a lot of complicit people in Washington, D.C. because their pockets are getting loaded with cash. And they're okay with it. As long as they're getting paid, they're okay with it, apparently. But like I said, I didn't want to belabor that point. I was just going to let you know, just from my point of view, from a guy who wasn't watching news for a year and then coming back into it, that's kind of what I see is the end of America is happening right before our eyes. But a lot of people don't recognize it yet because it's just their team against our team. That's the way they see it. It's red against blue. It's not that way, gang. It's not. And so those of you who can't understand why the Republicans are not doing anything to get rid of the corruption when they have the power to do it right now, understand they are paid off. They're paid off. Anyone who has an AIPAC handler or has taken AIPAC money into their campaign is suspect at best. Or actually even not at best. I mean, they're suspect. It's that simple.
The thing is, it's a mixed bag too. You have some people, you have some Republicans that have grown up in the evangelical mindset, and it's what they've been propagandized with all their life, and they honestly believe these things. And it's usually it's the new guys that aren't super deep into anything, and then you have the other groups of it that are the same way, and then you have the Democratic Party, which is loaded down with the same thing. It makes absolutely no difference which party you're looking at. You have three classifications, really. You have the ones that are blackmailed, you have the ones that are paid, and then you have the ones that are just mindlessly following it because they feel like it's a good idea based on their religion.
Sure. And that's another very serious problem we'll be dealing with here in the United States is, the Muslims taking over just like they are in Australia, Canada, England. Many of the Western nations are just being totally taken over by Muslims. And that also, there's a money trail for that as well, but we don't want to get into that tonight. Like I said, I'm going to try and keep it short.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're going to go ahead and I feel like a fish out of water. I don't like talking about the feds that much because they really don't need to be occupying my thoughts. But let's talk about, go ahead.
Like I say, the only reason to talk about them is to point out the problem, to understand what we need to do in our states.
Yeah.
Because in order to fix our states, we have to spot the money. We have to spot where the problems are. Try to predict based on whether it be the psychological, sociological aspect of what they're trying to do and predict what their next move is, and then act accordingly with our own states.
Yep, that's correct. The states is the only thing we have left, folks. If you need to drop this addiction to the 24/7 news cycles, everyone that has that addiction, and start working on your states, because your states are being infiltrated in real time right now as well. And once your state is taken over, it's done. It's over. You have to move out of that state into another state where people did take the time to keep the corruption, at bay. So it's up to everyone in the United States to take responsibility for their own states now. And to lay back and say, don't worry, someone else will take care of it. Well, that's exactly what happened to California. That's exactly what happened to Illinois. That's exactly what happened in New York. That's exactly what happened in New Hampshire. It's people sitting back saying, no, there's smarter people than me out there right now working the problems in our state. No, it takes a lot of people to actually get things done in a state. We know this firsthand. Mm-hmm. So the more people, the better. Okay.
You have to have a coalition of people that are well informed as to what needs to be done. And the fact is you're not going to fix anything unless you have enough an aware population. And it will take a massive education scheme to do that. And it takes time, people actually dedicating time to trying to educate the people around them to the problems. And not just with rhetoric of what they've heard on the news. They need to actually take the time to understand what's happening and then spread that information. Break others out of that cycle. Yep, and I see Martha here going, Sharia law needs to be criminalized in Missouri. The fact is that only exists and is brought into this country by foreign actors. For example, the Israelis, the WEF, that pay into the ADL and all these leftist organizations. They pay them. That's the other side of the field they play to import these people, to cause the chaos. Yeah, you can ban Sharia law all day, but it ain't going to fix the problem long term, because they're going to keep coming in. You're going to it's going to keep perpetuating the same problem.
Okay. And Caleb, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. We have to move on here because I'm going to be ending the live stream here in about 15 minutes. Yeah. Okay. So that's our take on that for now. If you guys want more talk along this line, just let us know. But we try to focus just on Missouri. I want to talk about something that many people are missing right now that someone had put out on Twitter. And I don't even want to try and pronounce his name. It's Shakana Aslam Perania or something like that. It's on your screen right now, and it says, everyone's watching the chip war. No one's watching the power war. That's the trap. China's power grid is 3.9 terawatts. America's power grid is 1.3 terawatts. Read that again. China has 3 times the electrical capacity of the United States. They added more power generation between 2010 to 2024 than the rest of the world combined. Right now, China has 30 nuclear reactors under construction, 0 in the United States. China's data centers pay 3 cents per kilowatt hour. In Virginia, America's AI heartland, we pay 9 cents an hour, 3 times as much. That's not a gap. That's structural execution. Here's what nobody will say publicly. AI doesn't run on chips. It runs on electricity. The chip is the brain. The grid is the blood supply. You can design the most advanced GPU on Earth. If you can't power 1 million of them cheaply, you lose. Goldman Sachs projects China will have 400 gigawatts of spare capacity by 2030. Spare capacity, folks. That's triple the entire projected global AI power demand. They're not building for today. They're building for a decade from now when AI scales 1,000 times, not percent, 1,000 times. So here's his prediction. He says, bookmark this. By July of 2026, the first major U.S. tech company will announce an AI facility in a foreign country, citing power constraints as the primary driver. That headline will be the moment America realizes we didn't lose the AI race in silicon. We lost it in kilowatts. The century belongs to whoever can keep the lights on. That is a very important tweet, and it's absolutely correct. It's absolutely correct. China is they're hoarding gold, they're hoarding silver, but they're also building an enormous amount of power generating power plants, from solar to nuclear to coal. Everything. They're doing all of it simultaneously. This is a big deal, and this is something that America is not really paying attention to. So I really, really like that, and I thought it was very important to bring that in. Now let's talk about gold and silver a little bit. And so this is from Silver Trade. Has the end game actually arrived for silver? Because this goes, and I'm not going to do the whole motif I was going to do earlier, but I'm going to talk about some aspects of silver and gold, because some people are concerned that the new law, the Genius Act that Trump brought in, there's components within the Genius Act talking about the possibility of silver being confiscated, because it's now, what do they call it? What did he make silver again? Some kind of national metal or something like that, some national security metal, or
strategic metal.
Strategic metal, which it always has been. It always has been. It's not because Trump put pen to paper that that's happened. It has always been strategic because it passes electrons without resistance. There is no other metal on the planet that has zero resistance for electrons other than silver. Gold comes close, but it's not quite there. Silver is better. In other words, with silver, for circuits, you don't have to cool the circuits. So that's why you have silver in your phone, silver in your telephone, silver in your television, silver in all computer motherboards, silver in all hard drives, is so that you don't have to cool them. They're passively cooled just by air. If you use any other metal like copper, you're going to have to cool it. You're going to have to put some heat sinks or some cooling fans on the copper. This is why silver is critical to industry. But I'm going to get into a silver battery here in a second here. This is the massive game changer that a lot of people don't see yet. And I wish I could show you the video, but Twitter is not working very well tonight. It just started this morning. Some of the videos on Twitter just won't play. But I want you to know, for the very first time ever, 5 major U.S. bullion banks have flipped net long on silver COMEX futures contracts. What that means is they're not betting on the price of silver to go down anymore. They're actually betting the price is going to go up. This has never, ever happened before in the silver story. Never. So, and this is very recent. So people who think, first of all, that silver's run its course and it's time to cash out, you're absolutely wrong. Silver has got a long way to go. And yes, it's going to be a very, very emotionally draining roller coaster. It will be. But just hang in there. Those of us who have been collecting silver for decades know better anyway. We take those long periods. We've taken long periods of absolutely no gains, knowing that this moment would at some point come where they would lose control of the manipulation with the COMEX or the commodity index for actually spoofing or changing the price on the futures contracts. This is what's coming to an end. The manipulation of the price of silver by the U.S. government, by the U.S. Treasury, by the LBMA is officially coming to an end. So this is pretty exciting stuff, what's going on right now. But it's also letting you know, too, the dollar's dying. So, you can rejoice when silver is $600 an ounce, but you're probably not going to like the way the world looks, at that time either. It just asks the people in Venezuela. Okay, here's the one I was talking about. Silver fundamentals are exploding. My goodness, if this video works, I'd actually like to show you the video. I know our group inside of Signal won't be able to hear it, but you guys will be able to, basically out on YouTube and Rumble and Twitter. But this is really, really important.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Well, Samsung develops a battery that charges in 9 minutes. Can anybody figure out why that's a good thing? Right. It goes 900 kilometers. Can anyone figure out why that's a world change? And they use 1 kilogram of silver in this solid state battery. By the way, they use manganese too, which I'm a big owner of, not the metal, but the companies. And they say if that could capture 20% of the electric vehicle market, it would consume all the silver produced in a year.
My goodness gracious.
Yeah.
And that's just that. That's just that battery.
One thing.
That's not solar panels and electronics.
Is it any wonder that these Asian countries keep buying these materials?
Right.
So I think that's a big, big change that's coming. And they're going to be starting to produce these things, I think, for consumption in 28 vehicles. So that's 27 production, which means maybe buying the metal in 26 to make sure you got enough. And, was there a shortage? Yes, there is. Well, you're screwed already, okay? So you better find a way, Mr. Samsung.
Okay, gang. This was really important, this video that you just listened to. It was about 1 minute and 14 seconds long, but it's about a new battery that Samsung has developed, and it's going to be in full production in 2026, and they're going to start implementing them in EV or electronic vehicles in 2027, I believe. So 2026, they're ramping up production. 2027, they're implementing them. And if just 20% of the electric cars want this battery that is about 60% more efficient than the current batteries that are currently in EVs, 60% more efficient, and it's about one half the weight, 60% more efficient. If they just implement that in 20% of the electronic cars that they're making, that's the entire year's mined silver supply. That's what you're up against right now. This is a huge leap in battery technology. It will definitely change the silver market forever. And believe me, $67 silver is nothing. I believe, actually, when this gets implemented, this will be significantly, if you want to buy silver, $67 is cheap. And I remember when silver was $7. I remember buying silver. That was when I was buying silver rounds. When I first started buying silver rounds, it was $7 an ounce. Because before then, I was getting constitutional out of bank change. You know, the quarters, the dimes, you know, the half dollars and the dollars. So taking the silver out of the bank change. And now it is literally becoming, there is just nowhere near enough silver being mined right now to satisfy supply demand. That is what's going on here right now, gang. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I don't know if you saw this, but Samsung has already
purchased
fronted money, to a mine.
Yep.
And they will get everything out of that mine for the next 2 years.
That's correct. It's in Mexico, if I remember correctly.
I couldn't remember where it was.
Yep.
So that's one mine that's going to come offline, basically, for any purchases.
Yep. So, that is something that's very, very important to understand, too. China did this in Mexico before, too. And I'll bet you my bottom dollar, Samsung paid a pretty penny to lease that mine for 2 years. And they're trying to secure enough silver so they can actually start developing these batteries. Once these batteries are fully developed and they're actually, in the production stage, they're going to need a lot more silver than they can get from one mine. That is literally for their research and development phase and they're going to, I think, the third or fourth best producing silver mine in the entire world is what they leased in Mexico. So a lot of silver coming out of that mine. So guys, once again, this rocket ship with silver is taking off. And I see Triple T. I was going to talk about Triple T in a second because he's actually already talking to reps about SAPA. So I'm going to tip my hat to him here in a little bit. But he says if silver hits $1,000 an ounce, I can retire. That is not out of the realm of reality here, actually. When you're talking about the need for solar panels, the need for, the EVs, and all other industry, for water filtration, for medical devices, for pharmaceuticals, everything that silver's used for is 38,000 uses for silver. Silverware, jewelry, not to mention investment demand, stackers like you and me. There's just not enough to go around, not at this price. Once silver goes up to $200, $250 an ounce, basically people start reshifting their priorities and they start looking for other things. Basically see if they can use, like, for instance, copper and gold can be used, basically in those applications. But gold is going up as well. So no one wants to use gold for those industrial applications. And there is industrial applications for gold, but it's only about 5 or 10% of all mined gold. Most mined gold goes into, coins and jewelry and rings and, things of that nature. And it always has been. It's been treasured, and almost all the gold that's ever been mined in the history of the world is still with us. That is not true with silver. Silver gets used up in the industrial process. So, hello to Mike from Maine, who is joining us here tonight. Actually, he's one of our old buddies from the Truth, Money, and Freedom podcast. Back in the silver and gold, days, back with Truth, Money, and Freedom. So hello to you, Mike. Thank you very much for joining us on YouTube tonight.
How's the potato factory, man?
Yep, the potato business. Yep. Okay, so so now we know a little bit more about what's going on with silver and gold, and I don't like talking about price because I think of silver and gold as money, not as an investment, not a way to get rich, but a way to make sure that you do not lose your pension, your retirement, your savings, the money in your wallet to inflation, because the federal government just won't stop printing. The inflation keeps hitting. So this is why silver and gold are so important for people to have, is just for that alone. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to talk about SAPA a little bit. I'm hoping people are making phone calls to senators talking about SB 952. And that is, of course, Mike Moon's SAPA bill that is filed. And I got a text from Triple T. And Triple T was basically at some political function, and he was dealing with Representative Benny Cook. And Benny Cook was very grateful to be getting all the information that Triple T was providing him on which SAPA to support. He knew that SAPA was out there, but once again, it's going to take educating our representatives and our senators on that. So Triple T, tip of the hat to you, because I haven't even talked to my rep yet. I've been making phone calls to senators. But I want to remind people, we're going into the Christmas season. It's a perfect time to call your senators and your reps and just leave a voicemail. Do it on the weekends if you want, on Saturdays and Sundays, or on the weekdays and the evenings. Leave a voicemail. Wish them a Merry Christmas. Tell them, you wish to have a Happy New Year. And hey, by the way, SB 952. Let's talk about that. I would really like a co-sponsorship if you're talking to a senator. If you're talking to a rep, put it on their radar. We don't have a House bill yet, unfortunately. And I did check with Ron Calzone earlier today. We still don't have a House bill or a House version of that yet. So we're pushing the SB 952. So, okay, does anyone have any questions about SAPA? Or if you want to, questions about gold and silver, questions about my analysis of, the fact that the American empire is actually collapsing in real time in front of everyone right now. It's all over the news. You just have to be able to put the puzzle pieces together. America, unfortunately, is finished. At least this is the way we knew her. Work on your states, folks. That is the only way to fix this. You can't fix it in D.C. And I think that's why Dan Bongino has left. So let's work on our states, and this is a big part of it. SAPA is incredibly important. Go ahead, Caleb. Did you have something?
And of course, I have my reasons to believe that they will stretch this out at least as long as they can and play that game.
Sure. Of course they will.
Particularly with the safe locations in the United States.
Yep.
And they need to hold out for their empire. But yeah, they are going to make everyone suffer in the process.
Yep. So to finish up with gold and silver, I got to tell you, for those who are worried about confiscation of gold and silver, Missouri's bill was written very, very well and actually did have anti-confiscation measures actually placed in it. So let me explain how this works. If the federal government says, well, silver's just too darn critical, too darn important, we're going to confiscate. We need it, for making bombs, making weapons, And that's another thing is every single cruise missile takes literally 500 ounces of silver. That's a monster box of Eagles. So for every single missile. So the government needs it for weapon creation as well. So confiscation is a possibility, and it has happened 3 times in the past. The one that we talk about most was 1933, but there were 2 before then as well. So here's the way it works in Missouri. First of all, the state government cannot confiscate silver and gold. In fact, the state government has to acknowledge everyone's right to own silver and gold. For the anti-confiscation measure for the federal side, what we have is the state cannot assist the federal government in helping them confiscate silver. Period. End of story. If they do, they are subject to heavy fines and fast tracks through the court system. And of course, whoever helps the federal government do it will have to pay for attorney fees as well for both sides. So that's what we have in place. Once again, it's not the federal government can't come in and confiscate. What it is they can come in and confiscate, but they have to do it without intel, without Missouri resources, without law enforcement, without the Missouri courts, without Missouri prosecutors, and so they're much less likely to come to Missouri and do it for that reason, because they don't know where the silver is.
And good luck knowing. Yeah, I was going to say, good luck knowing where everybody has physical silver held.
That's right. So, like Triple T says, like SAPA for silver. That is correct. I mean, that's kind of the same. In fact, I got the inspiration to put it in the silver bill from SAPA. Once again, the brainchild of Ron Calzone and Dave Rowland.
I lost all my silver in a boating accident.
Oh, that's terrible, Doug.
Oh, that's
awful.
I'm broke up over it. I haven't bought any more.
Oh boy. You took all your monster boxes out on the boat with you, and you went fishing, and then it's just a terrible accident. I understand, man. It happens to a lot of people. So sorry about that.
I can't wait to see the federal government digging up every freaking yard and acre looking for it. I mean, seriously.
We have 40 acres. It might take you a while.
Yep.
Oh, Maria wants to know the difference between Missouri versus federal asset forfeiture laws. Well, first off, just like SAPA, the gold and silver thing, it doesn't recognize Missouri's federal asset forfeiture laws. Or it doesn't recognize the federal ones anyway, so Missouri can't participate in that. But Missouri actually requires that someone be convicted of a crime, unlike the federal.
Yep, that's correct. So it's not actually, I wouldn't call it civil asset forfeiture at that point. I mean, that's, essentially probably.
It goes from civil to criminal asset.
Yeah, criminal asset forfeiture.
Have to have actually committed a crime. And,
right.
Something that's enforceable under Missouri law.
Right.
In order to actually seize assets. And even then it's limited.
Yep. So that's, a very, very different. And by the way, civil asset forfeiture is just wrong. It's just wrong. And we shouldn't have it at all anymore. And that's the beauty of SAPA. What SAPA did was say something very, very simple. And that is literally that you literally cannot engage in that if you use Missouri charge codes. And so that is all SAPA really truly did. You could say, if you're a sheriff of Christian County, you can say to the feds, hey, I have a gun crime. I want some help. Come out here and help me. And say, well, we can't because you're SAPA. Well, yes, you can, but we have to use Missouri charge codes for the crime. But you guys come in and help anyway. And we have sheriffs that say, no, the Fed won't work with us anymore. They're too scared to, The Fed is not scared of anything. Trust me. Who is scared, literally, is that sheriff. That sheriff is scared because he's worried he's not going to make, a bank on his civil asset forfeiture. It's an income-producing activity for sheriffs, basically to engage in civil asset forfeiture. But to make that happen, they have to use federal charge codes. And so that's what that got stripped away from them when we had SAPA in place here, was no more federal charge codes were being used for gun crimes. We're using Missouri charge codes. The people are still getting caught. They were still getting prosecuted. They were charged, prosecuted, convicted, going to prison. It was still all happening, gang. It's not like it was the Wild West out here, when SAPA went in force. So
just can't be enforcing unilateral non-laws that are just rulings from, federal agencies, and they couldn't be enforcing things that were not on the books in Missouri.
Yep, that's right. So that's the difference. Civil asset versus criminal asset forfeiture.
Most of 571.020 needs to be just completely eliminated in the state of Missouri, but
yep. So any other questions, gang? Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here. And Mike from Maine, really, really good to see you again, buddy. We'll have to get on the phone here sometime soon and catch up. And Maria, thank you for the question. That was a really good question, by the way. Really, really good question. And in fact, I don't know that that's ever been asked before in any of our live streams. So thank you very much for that. Let's see. Triple T, no. What are they going to do? Come to my house, make me give them my treasure map to find it. There we go, Triple T. That's right. And remember now, because of our law, our silver and gold law was, like I said, it was pretty well written. And what it basically said was Missouri acknowledges everyone's right to own silver and gold. So if the Treasury shows up at your house, knocks on your door at 2 o'clock in the morning and, says, hey, we came for the silver, say, hang on a second, let me call the sheriff. Because the sheriff is duty bound by the law to actually protect your right to own gold and silver. So basically, if the federal government says, well, we're confiscating it, for national security reasons or whatever, the sheriff has to come by and say, no, we actually guarantee the right to own gold and silver in the state of Missouri. It's our law. And they won't have a law, on the books. They say, well, they have that law on the books now with the Genius Act. No, because they didn't amend the Constitution. Article 1, Section 8, Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution guarantees silver and gold is money. And if they want to change that, they're going to have to actually do a constitutional Congress. They're going to have to amend the Constitution. They can't just do a law. So hopefully that allays some people's fears on confiscation of silver. I think actually it would probably be in the best interest of the United States to actually stop manipulating the price of silver and basically just let the free market take advantage of, basically letting the pressure, all the pressure that's been put on silver through the manipulation through the United States Treasury and other actors like J.P. Morgan and BlackRock that are agents of the U.S. government who have been manipulating the price of silver for decades, pushing it down, holding it down, not letting it go, as a free market. What we're seeing right now, the free market is taking over, baby. That's actually what's happening with silver now. And silver is just warming up. So remember, so is gold. Gold's going to go up too, but silver by percentages is going to overtake gold. It's not going to overtake it on value or price. It's going to overtake it on percentages, going to the upside. And a lot of people are predicting a 1-to-10 ratio with silver or gold. That means if gold were to stay where it is right now, silver's going to go up about 7 times in value from where it's at right now. 7 more times. So $67 times 7. So it's going to be in the $500 range, $550 range, maybe $600 range. That is if gold stays where it is right now. So, all right. Coin collections are off limits, says Mike from Maine. Okay. Maria says, what if police come into your house for whatever reason, i.e. a fight, and they find cash in your house and they take it in Missouri? They can't take cash unless they say that it's related to the crime.
Well, if they could, no. The thing is, they're not going to make that a federal case. Like, they don't make a domestic thing a federal case and start seizing cash.
Well, the fact is, if the cash was used in a crime, if this was a drug deal gone bad, and that's the fight at your house, and that cash was part of that drug deal, they can, in fact, take it as evidence. Now, that's not a civil asset forfeiture at that point. That's evidence for the case.
That kind of crosses into the territory. Yeah, no, and we're talking about cash here, U.S. dollars, and if you're talking about something that's not relating to either of these provisions, like whether it be in SAPA or it be in I get a wasp in here. That's lovely. Whether it be SAPA or it be gold and silver. If it's a drug deal, they could still call the DEA, and then they would start doing asset forfeiture proceedings.
Yep. So, but I don't know that there's any law saying they can't take the cash. We have a law that they can't take silver and gold. Basically, if it's Missouri, if it's federal, they can come in and try, but you want to get your sheriff involved in that action if they try. So, once again, allaying fears on confiscation of silver or gold. And silver, believe it or not, is becoming more valuable than gold by the minute. And you guys may think I'm crazy on this. This is stuff we were doing in Truth, Money, and Freedom all the way back in 2015. So this is, we know this stuff. We've been involved in this. Mike from Maine has been stacking almost, I think as long as I have. I started when I was 14 years old. I'm 54 now, so that's 40 years. Mike from Maine probably has been stacking just as long, if not longer. We have been following this silver story for a very long time. So we're old hat at this, and we're also used to the roller coaster ride with silver. The possibility of confiscation on silver had really never crossed our minds. But at the same time, the confiscation of gold, it's happened 3 times in American history. This is why I wrote the anti-confiscation measures into our bill for our silver and gold bill. Okay. Gold and silver are not going up. It's the dollar crashing. Well, Mike, that's partially it, but also silver, there's way, way, way too much demand for how much is being produced right now, and as evidenced by the Samsung story on that battery.
It's kind of a hybrid situation. It's not, you also have the fact that it's an industrial metal, and they've done the paper to silver ratio so hard all these years that they aren't mining enough. Maybe they'll open a couple more mines and catch up a little bit, but it's not going to fully make up the difference.
Yep. All righty. All right. If there's any more questions, let us know now, because I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show. And Sam's been with us this whole time. Sam, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, we're doing good. Patrick, I just want to mention we got as far as my show, we're taking time off, but next month we're going to start the second week in January, and let's start thinking of guests we can bring on. And the other thing I want to mention is that we have potential for great growth with the show, because I just finally figured out how to get a show up on Substack.
Hey.
And so we got that done this morning. Yep. So I should have my first podcast showing up over there tomorrow. So if anybody wants to be on that Substack list, you can just pop me an email over at just send me an email at simply Sbritton, SBRITTON at startmail.com, and let me know you want to be on that list, and we'll start doing shows the first of the year. So Patrick and anybody else for that matter, start thinking of Missouri guests we can bring on, and we can start getting the word out. With Substack being involved, that'll greatly grow the audience, because there'll be a lot of people receiving it on RSS and various other means as well.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I've got an idea right away. How would you like to have the sponsor of SAPA, Mike Moon, come back on your show?
Well, that'd be perfect. Absolutely. It's about time to have him on anyway.
Yep, I think so too. And so, yeah, I think there's no end of people that we could bring on the show to support SAPA, but Mike Moon is the sponsor. And so I think that, we got to get him to get out there and talk about it just a little bit.
The only thing I will say that I hope Missouri will get the spine to do, it comes down to a point. I was talking with a guy who we just picked up on our station here within the past 8 months or so. A guy by the name of Michael Gaddy, who ironically, by the way, used to work at one time back in the 60s for the NSA. So he knows the inside of government real well. And he's been saying, and I have been increasingly saying, but he kind of pretty much says the same thing I have, and that is, don't be surprised if the Supreme Court does the same thing again that they did the first time. And basically, he's saying the same thing I'm saying. Eventually, these states are just going to have to go tell the courts to pound the sand, because after all, who created the federal government? The states, or did the federal government create the states?
That's right.
So the states are going to have to get a spine.
Yes, it is. Yep. Well, a lot of states need to get a spine. There's a lot of shenanigans out there. This is why I keep saying over and over again, it's so critical people concentrate on their states and drop this whole, let's worry about the federal government. Let's call our senator and our representative in D.C. They just don't care. They are answering to other people. They are not answering to you. And it's whoever funds their campaigns is who they're answering to anymore. Don't waste your time there. Let them do what they want to do out there. Just work on your states. Get the corruption out of your states. And then, basically we can reform the federal government. Once we have enough decorrupted states in the United States, we can actually get together and reform the federal government. So,
Yep. There is a big problem, though, and it's going to take a lot of education, because the amount of people that have no understanding of the basics of the Constitution and the source of power and how it, additive power, not, here's a few things and take it wherever you want, that most people seem to think that the Constitution is. The people think that just because anything and everything that's not forbidden by the Constitution is somehow constitutional, and it's disgusting.
Yep. All righty. All right. Well, with that, gang, I'm going to wish you all a Merry Christmas again. And we'll see you before the new year, because we will do a show next Saturday night as well. And I'll get some data together for us to have a really, really good show. We'll do more silver and gold. We'll keep watching silver and gold here, too, because we have the best laws here in the state of Missouri. All the other states have to compete to get laws as great as we have here in Missouri. And that's something that we should be awfully proud of. We're done. We're done actually getting our legislation for silver and gold. But at the same time, I would love to show you one more thing here before we go here. This is actually worth the time. Let me bring up, let's look at gold. And we could do, silver's more dramatic. But if you guys remember, we were trying to get this bill done January of 2023. So how much was gold in January of 2023? It was $1,898, $1,900. We were trying to get a depository in the state so we could actually get some of the money out of bonds, for basically the state reserves and for the pension fund into gold and silver. And gold has more than doubled. It's gone up about 2.2 times since January of 2023. Now let's look at silver. That one's really much more dramatic. January of 2023, we were at $23 for silver. Now we're at $67 for silver. So we've almost tripled. So if the state of Missouri had done a depository, which was in the original SB 100, and if they got silver and gold, during that time, and we could even go, well, it's not going to happen until July. Well, in July, it was $22.77, for silver. Now it's $67. Now, the reason this is important to know is because the state of Missouri is using mainly, not just, but mainly 10-year bonds. So what are 10-year bonds paying? What are the yields on 10-year bonds? It's about 4.2%. So in the space of time, the state of Missouri has made approximately 12% on their bonds in the last 3 years. So they've made 12% profit on the bonds for the pension fund. Or they could have done silver and gold and virtually tripled the amount of money they invested in silver and gold. Tripled. And that's what other states are looking at depositories now. So this is why I say it's going to happen naturally and organically right here in the state of Missouri, but they're late. They could have caught it really cheap. But at the same time, it's still cheap relative to where silver's going to be 3 years from now. So I do think states are going to be looking at depository language all across the United States. And I'm just not worried about us doing it because I just don't want to do battle with Malik anymore. And that's our treasurer, by the way. And where he says, oh, yeah, I love the idea. I love the idea, Pat. Yeah, thanks for bringing your group by. And then as soon as a sponsoring senator or representative comes in to talk to Malik, no, I hate the idea. In fact, if you keep running that bill, I'm going to kill it. You know, I'm going to run around and tell people I don't support it. That's the kind of stuff we were getting from Malik. So it's just not worth our time to try and work on a depository. But we got it done for the people. The people are taken care of. The depository was just for the state anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gang. Let's see. Lots of triples being thrown around tonight from Triple T Tony. That's right. The tripling of silver. That's right. I need to get a backer with money to put me in Jefferson City. Oh, hang on. Triple T, are you actually running for a representative seat? Please answer that. Let us know if you're doing that. And Triple T Tony is one of our friends. Met him through Travis's network, the Prepared Homestead, by the way. So let's see if he responds yes to that, because if he is running, he'll be filing in February to run for a representative seat. And nothing yet, but there's always a delay.
Yeah, there's like a 5 or 10 second delay.
Sometimes 30 seconds, we found out.
Yeah, it just depends on what page he's on.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll catch you on that one next time, Tony. So let me close this out tonight. He says, I'd love to run, but need money to pay. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right. So he's looking at the money to file. You talk about money to file, or you're talking about raising money?
Yeah, probably both for the campaign as well, because that kind of thing that gets expensive.
The people with the most money wins. Not necessarily all the time, but
yeah, it depends on where you're at.
Yeah, just depends.
Patrick, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. I got to get upstairs, but Merry Christmas to all of you. It's been a pleasure being here. And when's the next stream, Patrick?
Next Saturday night.
All right. Well, we'll be back for that one
Yep.
too.
So right before New Year's.
That's right. Blessings to you all.
Yep. Blessings to you too, Sam. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
You bet. Take care.
Okay. Bye. Okay, gang, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. We're almost at an hour and a half now. I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. Merry Christmas to all of you. We will not have another live stream before Christmas. Enjoy the warm weather coming. That's another gift from God. I'm going to take advantage of that warm weather to get some work done outside if I can. But guys, thanks again for joining us. Thanks again for, actually believing in the cause and helping with the cause. Remember now, January 14th is our very first Knock and Shock. And it looks like we'll be supporting at least 2 bills. SAPA, the Second Amendment Preservation Act, that's sponsored by Senator Mike Moon. And we'll probably be sponsoring this bill to basically stretch out from 3 to 7 years before a house can be confiscated for back taxes. And we'll cover that once it's filed in much more detail. So thank you again for joining us tonight. I want to thank everyone who came into Signal tonight. So that's Doug and Maya. And we have Cindy Stratton with us, and of course Caleb Walker, and Sam was with us on the phone tonight. So thank all of you. You guys have a wonderful Christmas. Love you all. May God bless each and every one of you.